Helen Ward is the president of Kids First Parent Association of Canada. She's a single mother living in Burnaby. Kids First is a unique parent-run registered nonprofit society and national charity, first founded in 1987 to support children's optimal well-being. For the past 20 years, Helen has researched child-related issues and policy, applying little-known hard evidence, human rights law, and parents' lived experience to advocate for parent-child relationships and parent-child rights. With that, let's welcome our second to last speaker, Helen Ward.
See if I can get the technology to work. That's always my weak point. How do I do this? Thanks all for coming. What do I push? Okay, good. Okay, so there. Now I'm gonna move the mic, and I'm on it. Okay, so we're talking about childcare, and so what is childcare? We define childcare as the care of a child, which the Act does. It says it's the care and supervision of a child, but it's in a child care facility. And this Act does not apply, it says, to care by a child's parent. So parents don't do childcare. Whatever they're doing when they're looking after the kids, it's not childcare. This Act promises affordable, inclusive, accessible, and high-quality childcare. So I'll give you a short history of family and child care laws. This is about the relationship between the family and the state. What is the role of the state in the family? Because laws can protect family and support the child-parent relationship or not. So back in the 1700s and 1800s, we had industrialization, and we needed laws to protect the family from industry, from the exploitation that happened there. Child labor, female labor, no wages, exploitation. And this led to, over time, something that's called familialism. It supports the family and the welfare state. So we had new laws that protected the family and restricted industry. They restricted child labor and female labor. They restricted how long you could be at a job, and they gave you minimum wages and all these things that protected the family. And they also provided cash supports directly to parents to finance parental child care. There was a widow's pension in 1926, baby bonuses, child benefits, welfare, and income assistance. There was compensation for people who were injured or lost a job or when people died. So this all was to support, and pensions were all to support the family in its care of its members. So this is called familialism, and we had the post-war welfare state, and so it was laws that created this Leave It to Beaver, breadwinner, homemaker, mom family. But those laws also had unjust restrictions on women. They restricted women's education and women's employment, and wages of women were about half of what a man earned. Just ask your grandmas. And so this led to 60s and 70s second wave feminism, and it was for women. So there was new laws again that ended the unjust restrictions on women and had laws for equal pay for women. But there's also laws that do not protect the parent-child relationship. In Canada, we've had a tragic history of the state violating the parent-child relationship. We had this basically a form of child care law that started in 1847, the residential schools. And in BC, we had residential schools, especially in BC, for the Doukhobor children. This is a picture of parents visiting their children at a residential school. So second wave feminism had some aspects that are against women. We had Gloria Steinem saying housewives are dependent creatures who are still children. They are parasites. Simone de Beauvoir wrote that women should not be authorized to stay at home to care for her children. Women should not have that choice, precisely because if they have that choice, too many women will make that one. And she also said that women's work within the home is not directly useful to society. It produces nothing. So we're going to talk about work. What is work? Feminists disagree. Some feminists say that parental childcare is work, that every mother is a working mother, and we should fund the child. And other feminists say that parental childcare is not work, and that we should fund daycare centers, and they want free universal daycare. So I will call those daycare feminists. So this leads us to new situation, post-familialism, ending the welfare state. It's also called defamilialization. Is that an ugly word? So in the 1980s, there was a rise of globalization, the rise of neoliberalism, neoconservatism, which is a partnership of big government with big business to support the interests of big business. And the laws that were created under this reduce laws that protect the family and children. The neoliberals decided that work means full-time job, and that all adults they have a duty, a civic duty to have a full-time job. That was the guy who came up with that idea. So what happened in the 1990s is that the right-wing neoliberals and neoconservatives joined the left-wing daycare feminists. This is Martha Friendly, leading daycare feminist in Canada, and Paul Wolfowitz, the former head of the World Bank. So why did the neoliberals get behind this? Because subsidized daycare means higher profits for business. It's a low-wage subsidy, according to a leading daycare promoter. And The Economist magazine explained that it's a godsend to employers because it raises demand for goods and services, including meals out and childcare. And also women cost less to employ than men and are less inclined to kick up a fuss if working conditions are poor, and far fewer of women are members of unions. So the World Bank was behind this. They're the key promoter. There's their daycare stuff. In Canada, we had the Royal Bank of Canada partnering with the World Bank to promote this agenda. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, another international organization very much involved in pushing this from above to us down below. And the OECD had this conference called Putting More Women to Work. Like we don't work. And the World Economic Forum has also got on the bandwagon and pushes subsidized daycare. In BC, we have the BC Council of Business promoting it, and the head of the Bank of Canada promoting it. Here in BC, we have a world banker basically came to BC to promote this. This is Clyde Hertzman. He worked for the World Bank in Eastern Europe, which is never mentioned in any of his information. And he started the Human Early Learning Partnership, which is located at UBC, and their primary function was to promote massive daycare funding and also all-day kindergarten. Clyde Hertzman has been followed by Paul Kershaw. Dr. Paul Kershaw is also a head of the Human Early Learning Partnership, and he runs a government-funded lobby group called Generation Squeeze, promoting $10 a day daycare. It wouldn't have happened without these people. And he defines defamilialization as the degree to which individuals can uphold a socially acceptable standard of living independently of family relationships, apart from male adult family members and spouses. So it's an anti-family, anti-relationship agenda. In 2002, the OECD partnered with UNESCO to create a state-of-the-art blueprint on the topic of childcare. The blueprint calls for, and this is the blueprint that BC is following, a new order avoiding a return to a family-centered ideology. It calls for deep changes in the family structure, and it calls for shared responsibility between the state and family for child rearing. These are all quotes from documents. I'm not making this up. So we had this call for welfare reform because everyone has to have a full-time job. And back in the 1980s, there was a huge call against welfare queens who were ripping off the government and the population by having lots of kids and getting welfare payments. So this led to, in 1996, President Bill Clinton called for an end to welfare as we know it, and they had massive welfare reform. And the same year in BC, we had the same call to end welfare as we know it, and we had the 1996 BC Benefits Child Care Act. That was the beginning of this current run of legislation. Because back in the day, you could stay on welfare until your youngest child was 18. And then under this legislation, it was reduced to age 2 in BC. In many places, you can't be on welfare after your youngest child turns 1. But what happened to all that money that went, billions of dollars across North America, went to poor women and poor children. And that money was transferred to daycare for the kids and subsidized jobs, McJobs for the moms. I call it McJobs for moms. So that was, oh, there we go. The impact of this legislation. There's going to be less choice and more coercion for parents and women. Paul Kershaw called for a neoliberal approach that uses the state's coercive power to affect citizens' decisions regarding jobs and childcare. And when we talk about women's choice, well, we can ignore women's choices about what they want to do with their children because women's choices are too impacted by cultural expectations. Okay, it's not changing there. The law promises that there's going to be high quality, affordable care and $1,600 a month for the use of daycare. That's nearly $20,000 a year. So, sorry, okay, it's not working. Okay, it's not working. So $1,600 a month, $20,000 a year. So for using daycare, that's the kind of subsidy you get. But if your parental child care gets exactly $0, so most children's care gets $0 in funding. And these subsidies are not based on income. So wealthy families tend to use daycare centers more than low-income families. So billions of dollars that are for children's care do not go anywhere near children or their care. High quality, well, all the research on daycare quality in Canada shows that it's the majority of licensed daycare in Canada is of minimal to mediocre quality. In Quebec, most of it's also the same way. Impact on children, well, the top research in Canada of the Quebec daycare system says that children are worse off. There's more aggression, motor social skills are down, increased crime, actually this is what the economists find, and more health problems and lower life satisfaction. Is this a good use of funding for families? Well, in BC, this slide is from just current government data. We created 40,000 new funded daycare spaces, but 20,000 of those spaces, or almost 20,000 of those spaces, are not operational. So you have 20,000 new funded vacant spaces, according to the government's data. Okay, more promo. There we go. There's a slight change in the wording that allows a home to be considered a childcare facility, and the minister can decide that parents do provide childcare if they want to. And I'm just going to conclude with, where is it? One more. Nobel laureate economist Dr. James Heckman, who's the leading international expert on this area, he says that the family is the whole story. We do want to harvest the powerful force of love and attachment for the child. That is such a powerful force. We can empower parents, and I don't know if public policy has gotten there yet, which he's accurate about that. So thank you, and I will